This is the last tutorial for 4D part 3, where we're going to be looking at annotating evidence of the work that you've done for this new reservation form. So the question says, show annotated evidence to explain how the other requirements were met. Other is meaning because you've already done the validation requirement. So if we have a look at what the actual requirements are, they're listed here, and we also need to check within the question. So we can have a look and see that we've already done the validation. The checkout date must be at least 1 day after the check-in date, so we can highlight that one off. Now we need to show things that you've done in order to have got where you did. So before we can look at things like how you actually saved the reservation into reservation table, you also need to look at how you actually put the named the different fields that are on here. So you're saying that you gave each of the form controls a name so that they could be referenced. So we've got the check-in date, and you can see there, and then we've got these different names. Well, this is also showing how we've got options for the check-in date to be entered, checkout date, and then as we scroll down, visitor being selected from a list and the room being selected from a list. So we've covered those requirements as well at that point. We're now showing evidence that we've got the title and the logo, so that's those requirements covered. And then we've got the drop down box. You know, I got a little bit ahead of myself here in terms of highlighting this, because really it shouldn't have been. It should only be that the visitor is on there and that rooms are on there. But now we've got how you created the drop down box for customer. So we now can say that can be selected from a list, so that's covered. Then you created a query to merge room type data with room data, and then use that for the room. Now, if you went on to do the more complicated bit, then you could put the evidence of using the query for the unavailable rooms at this stage rather than later on. So that could go there. So rooms to be selected from a list, we've got that, but not the available rooms at this stage. The deposit needs to be set to 0, so this is showing how the deposit will be set to 0, so we can tick that one off. And the date booked being set to today's date. Then we've got information about the make reservation button. So we've got that button, and it will run a macro called make reservation, and that macro opens that append query. So at the moment we've got the button, okay, and we need to show that it actually does make the reservation. It's called make reservation, so we can at least do that. Now we're going through and explaining the append query. So you need to show how the append query goes to the reservation table so that it gets saved in the reservation table. So we've covered that little bit. Then you're showing how you've used this dmax function for reservation ID, or you may be that you changed it to an auto number, in which case just identify that and say that the reservation ID is an auto number and therefore doesn't need to be added to it. But you need to explain what this does. So it's saying it's finding the largest reservation ID, so we've picked up on this bit. In the reservation table, so you've picked up on this bit, and then adding 1 to it, so you've picked up on this bit. Then it's about saying how you're getting the data from the form, so that it's all coming from the form. And I've just made a comment there that we've already looked at the reservation date and payment received fields, just in case your teacher or moderator don't notice it. Then of course we've got the room drop down list. So if you've done this query unavailable rooms, you need to explain that whole query and what it's done. So that's the whole query. This is then showing the criteria, but then each of those criteria need to be explained. So you need to explain what this is doing and what that is doing. So we need to say about the check-in date of a reservation is not after the requested checkout date, and the checkout date of the reservations is not before the check-in date, because otherwise we get a clash. And then you need to explain the unmatched query, why you created the unmatched query, what that was for and what its purpose was, and go through each stage of what you did. And then of course show how you change the row source to be that query for available rooms. So we've now covered available rooms, and we've also got this bit, how it changes after the check-in and check-out date. So I've got to the end of that, and have we covered saving a reservation? Well, if we go back and we have a look at what we did before, let's just double check. We have this. This is showing what the query does, the append query does, and we've already said that the append query is linked to that button. So yes, we have done that. We've got the button that saves it, and it does save a reservation. Again, check the question. When a customer phones a hotel, it is necessary to check if a room is available and make that reservation. Okay, so we've got this, it's checking to see if a room is available, so that's been covered. Making a reservation is covered. A room is only available if nobody else is checking in or out on the same day. Well, when you looked at that, we made sure that that was possible when we looked at the criteria. Create a new reservation form. We've done that will meet the following requirements, and we've covered all of those requirements. So you've done the annotation, but it's very important that you include every little step that has been done, and all the different evidence of what's been done there, so that it's clear that all the different bits link in together, and make sure that you say what you've saved the queries as and what the queries are based upon.